Hello and welcome back to WagmiTV. Today is episode 2, and I'm joined by my absolute homies, as always, Doc Mata, NFT Garcia, and the one and only, the All-American, Evan Smith. How we doing, fellas?
Doing great.
Doing good.
I mean, market's not too hot, but at least our boys in the maize and blue made the tournament, right? So
Seriously, a little bit of a surprise on a.
we'll
on a
raise
Sunday,
one to
huh?
that.
No NIT
Yeah.
this year, baby. No NIT.
We barely made it. Barely made it.
The
I
NCAA
think,
almost rugged us, dude.
I think
That
we
would have been
get
the rug of the
first
week.
round.
Yeah,
That would have been the rug of the week. That would have been
Uh.
brutal. Yeah. I think we get through the first round though, and we got Tennessee in the second round with home court advantage in Indianapolis. I think we go to the Sweet 16.
We'll find out next
I hope
week.
so. I hope
Yeah.
so.
All the listeners will find out next
I'm a little
week.
bullish.
Yeah, a little bullish. Let's see how that one pans out.
Yeah, we'll see.
We shall
I
see.
love it.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining again. This week, as promised, we have a deep dive on P2E gaming. Last week we did a little bit of an intro, and so we wanted to kind of take it from there. And we felt like it deserved a whole episode. It's a really interesting concept and a really interesting space that's developing very quickly. And so we figured we'd give you all an episode just purely focused on that. So, Ev, can you do us a favor and remind us what exactly P2E gaming is and kind of where we left off last time?
Sure. Yeah. So P2E gaming, or pay to earn gaming, is essentially a gaming business model that relies on the blockchain, and essentially the players get paid in cryptocurrency that's that the application is built on top of. So if it was built on top of Ethereum, which I highly doubt it, they're going to get paid in Ether, but a lot of these are built on blockchains that have lower fees, lower gas fees for doing these transactions. So we can start to dive into some. I think we went into Axie Infinity last episode, but just a quick reminder on the size and scale that we're talking about with this industry. Let's see if I can move my bar. So when we look at what the online gaming industry was able to do last year, you start to see some huge numbers here on the right side. So, Microsoft and Sony are two huge e-gaming companies that obviously have enormous yearly revenue. But when you look at Activision right here, this is a figure 564 million. That is just quarterly. So you're seeing that these companies can be billion-dollar companies, and that's where you get all this hype around P2E gaming, in the metaverse. It's because a lot of this e-gaming that is already happening is generating huge margins and huge revenue numbers. So we started to see that while this is interesting, users are asking for more and more. They're asking for VR plays, metaverse plays where you're fully enclosed in the game and getting an even better experience. So yeah, that's kind of what we covered last week. I think we went.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that that acquisition, right, for Activision,
Yeah.
what, $68 billion. Clearly a lot of players putting their money where their mouth is in terms of this metaverse play. That there's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and there's games that are centered on the metaverse. I know that probably a lot of people that at least have a little experience with it know about the Sandbox, know about Decentraland. I think Garcia can run through NFT Worlds even more. But the big idea of the metaverse, and I think this is where most of us stand conceptually, is there's going to be multiple. There's not going to just be one. And so you start to see these metaverses morphing into their own personal flavors of it. You start to see whether it's the sandbox where it's mostly focused on community, some guy paying $500,000 to be next to Snoop Dogg, to have the real estate next to Snoop Dogg, that's a huge emphasis on the community that P2E metaverse platform provides. Whereas when you look at some of these other ones, like I've got this one I've been looking at recently, TCG World. This one is mostly focused on buying NFTs, your personal characters, being able to level them up by buying different plots of land around farming, agriculture, stuff like that. And so it's more of a almost kind of Farmville type thing where you're building out your own life within this platform rather than living out like your own real world personality just in a virtual world. So you start to
Is
see
it almost
that,
like a RuneScape or something?
yeah, a lot like that.
I know one of the demos that Garcia showed, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks ago or something, it reminded me of a little bit like RuneScape in terms of like the front end like design of like what the user is actually seeing. Like you got your like inventory where you have all your like stuff and like you have your skills and like I don't know, it just reminded me of that. Like I was heavily into that at one point. So it makes a ton of sense. Wow, yeah, look at this.
Yeah.
This looks
This is a
crazy.
good little promo.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think essentially everything that's customizable within these P2E metaverse games could be thought of as an NFT. And I think, if we go back, I thought I noticed this while we were in this video. Let's see if I can get to the right screen. There was a screen in here where you see a QR code. Let's see if I can pause it. Maybe I missed it. But essentially what you could do is continue to buy other NFT add-ons within these platforms. And you start to see that metaverse P2E blending because it's easier and easier for you to make purchases while interacting as basically your own avatar. And so, there's complex banking for personal finance. I don't know which one you would go with here, but you can start to see how, right here. So you could see these QR codes in the bottom right of this image on the left. And it's, this is a really, for us, for people that have experience with transferring cryptocurrencies between their wallet and exchange, this is a very natural way to basically engage in a transaction in personal finance. So you could start to see how this would be the easiest way for that P2E blockchain to interact with some of the metaverse plays that are out there.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
Super interesting. Sia, you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think what what Ev touched on in terms of like having like an actual in-game or like in metaverse like economy. I think it's really interesting that like some projects are incorporating either like a multi-layer like approach, like a multi-chain approach. So like where they have a particular metaverse built on a certain blockchain, but then they use a different blockchain to process in game transactions, to make it like more seamless. So like there's just a lot that's still open in terms of like what can happen, like in terms of how people can get creative and how they can build metaverses. So I just feel like the opportunities are endless. But that also is a double-edged sword because now it's like who's going to build the most popular metaverse? Like, is it going to be Sandbox? Is it going to be Decentraland? How much room is there? How many metaverses are people actually going to spend time in? It's like a very unexplored industry. So it's not like but it's almost like when social media was first coming out or the internet was first coming out. It's like how are these things going to unfold? It's definitely interesting and we're not quite sure yet.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think there's like an element from like an investing perspective when let's say you're like maybe buying a plot of land in like one of these metaverses, right? Like it's almost like while I'm almost had the thought that like, not like I was thinking like, oh, in the metaverse, like the land is like unlimited, right? Like you can just keep making land. So like what makes it scarce? But at the same time, certain metaverses, certain games will draw more people. And that's what will make that land inherently like
Exactly.
more expensive, right? So it's like an acre of land in like Manhattan versus like an acre of land in, whatever, Iowa.
Exactly.
They're still both acre of land, but one has like heavily more demand, right? And so that's kind of like the interesting to think about. I feel like nowadays, especially early stage with these metaverses, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's still like location, but it's within the metaverse rather than the real world, right? It's all the same rules that you have to play by,
yeah,
but each of these metaverse, which is super interesting. And I think you bring up a great point, right? I kind of think of it as like two different users, right? You have like the investor who owns the NFT. Maybe it represents a plot of land or a character or something like that. And then you have kind of that second type of user that's the gamer, right? Who actually is playing the games and doing all the things there. And so I think that's one area where it will be interesting to see how that develops. And it's something that we've talked about a lot, right? Like some of these games, right, are going to be, at least to get the NFT, get the land, what have you. It's going to be kind of a high barrier to entry, right? We've talked about how it kind of needs to be, if there's a future in P2E as like a real gaming service, it kind of has to be free, kind of like a Fortnite, right? Where they pop in and go and work within that. But it's weird because you're kind of catering to two different audiences as your users, right? The investors on one hand, and then the actual gamers on the other. So I don't know if you all have any thoughts on that, but it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds.
No, to build on that, sorry, just I'll just say this real quick, but to build on that, like I think the main, like the first thing first has to be the game, right? Like the first thing first, because the gamers, without the gamers, you don't have the traffic, right? Without the gamers, you don't have, like, they're the ones who care most about the experience. The game is going to be the thing that really like is going to be the differentiating factor, right? So you can't have like I mean, I guess Axie is kind of a bad example because it looks like a shitty game. I've never played it myself, but like I guess people play it. But like you were saying last week, like it opened up that like thought process. It was kind of the pioneer within the space, right? But I think moving forward, the ones that are going to have the most success are going to be the ones that like people would play for free, and now they can play it and actually earn, right?
Yeah, that's an
Evan,
interesting point that you make, because I feel like, and I'll pass it over to you, Evan, after this. I feel like rather than it being game first now, it feels like it's more investor focused rather than that gamer user.
Definitely.
So it'll be interesting to see how that flips. But I'll pass it over to you, Evan. I know you had a couple of things.
Yeah, I think the only other thing I was going to add is you were talking about how there's like different profiles, essentially. Like you've got the investor, the gamer. And what we see with Axie Infinity is it's that blockchain is totally centralized. It's built by that gaming studio, also maintained by that gaming studio. And when you look at some of these P2E games, I guess it's pretty common across like that entire industry. It's fully centralized. So is this something that's going to start to be decentralized? We're going to see this as a platform that is decentralized, and you have different profiles. Almost you'll need miners or stakers, node holders, users, or is it something that's going to evolve to being solely owned and operated by big tech? And because of that, they're going to have their hands in the pie. They're going to be grabbing data, and all that comes with big tech. So yeah, I don't know. I think there's like a lot up in the air, but it could go many different ways.
I think that's almost the coolest part, though, right? It's like the only way that we're able to visualize it, or at least the only way that I'm able to visualize it right now is like gaming, right?
Yeah.
One of the ones that I've been in love with since the start of this NFT stuff, which I sent over to you guys and have talked to you guys about a ton, is just the music aspect, right? And giving that power back to the actual creators. So it'll be fun to see where the NFT and metaverse space really goes from here. I think gaming is a very easy entryway. It's very easy to visualize, very easy to understand because we can apply it right here and now.
Mhm.
I do wonder what this will look like in 5 years. I really do. And what direction it'll take and what forms it'll expand into. Because I don't think it's just going to be one. It's not just going to be gaming, right? Obviously, this is on P2E, but more in the metaverse style. It's kind of going to expand into all these different, like a Hydra, all these different heads. So
For sure.
super interesting.
Yeah, and I don't remember the exact quote, but it was literally just like a week ago. Mark Zuckerberg said something about how he thought the metaverse economy was going to be just as big, if not bigger, than the actual world economy. And I was just like, I don't really get how that, how that really works. I mean, obviously they changed they have a stake in the game since they changed their whole branding to Meta. So he might be a little bit biased, but at the same time, like, there's research behind what they're doing, and he obviously sees value there, and like I feel like a lot of what Mata was saying, like it's right now it's like a lot of investors, a lot of speculators, a lot of like early adopters just trying to figure out where it's going to go. Like a lot of speculation, like you said, right now it's mostly gaming, but some people are seeing other use cases, but it's just like a lot of it's not fleshed out right now.
I wonder what like time
Zuck's
frame
just
he was
chilling his
talking
bag.
Probably.
Yeah.
He's probably just chilling his bag.
No, I'm kidding. But I mean, like, look at this, right? You have a festival in it. You have a ski resort. You have airports.
Oh, you got a volcano.
Yeah.
What are you gonna,
where
the hell are you gonna
where
do on
can all
that?
of this go from here? A million different directions, right? And this is just one concept of it. So it's just crazy to think about. Sorry, Sam, I know I cut you off there.
No, I was just saying, I wonder what time frame he's like thinking of on this. Like, I feel like he's thinking in like a pretty long time horizon, but at the same time, like you can see, like in real life, you only have one life, right? In the metaverse, you could have like 6 lives. Like you could have you could have a life in 7 different metaverses potentially, right? And so if like you're literally, I guess like there's a point where you have no more real, like actual real life money to spend anymore because you just spent it all in the metaverse. So I guess that's that would like limit how many lives you can potentially have. But you could see a situation where you could have many people having multiple different lives in the metaverse. And if they're funneling enough money into that, I guess the economy could grow to like, I guess, eclipse the world economy, which is really crazy to think about. But like,
that's like
that's a crazy
Ready
concept.
Player One, like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it, but that's essentially Ready Player One at that point. But that'll get gnarly.
no, I haven't seen that. What is that? Is it a movie?
You got to check it out.
Yeah, it's a movie. Essentially, everybody just lives within this gaming metaverse, and nobody has any real money, and they all just kind of like live inside there. So, it's pretty good actually. But I think another thing too, when we're talking about like futures that could happen is, you could see a lot of these cryptocurrencies that belong to these metaverses, not really holding a ton of value in the future. Maybe they have poor tokenomics, or the company that's running them is playing with them for their balance sheet. You never know. But I think what you could easily foresee is the NFT marketplace within these becoming very strong, being like very strong third party economies, essentially creator economies, where you look at social media and Web 2.0, that was able to basically, for better or for worse, bring to rise the idea of an influencer. When you look at Web 3, you could start to see some of these artists really gaining a ton of money and traction because, all of a sudden their skill set is like way more important for these economies.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And actually that brings me back to a thought I had when you were going into the QR codes on those different NFTs in that video.
Yeah.
It made me think of Silicon Valley, if you've ever seen that. What's the dude who he brings on that's like the gaming guy who has the big game that he brings into Pied Piper? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. He's a little short dude.
Yeah, shorter
Dude
dude.
with
He's
the
got the
hoodie.
sick house. Yeah.
Yeah, sick house, all that stuff. He was a goon, but it was really funny because at one point they started to really monetize all the advertisements. So like obviously this is next level, but someone would say something like about pizza, and then there'd be like a Domino's ad that like kind of is in that little metaverse like games scenario. And so it kind of like reminded me of that. It was kind of funny. It was like, yeah, you're like monetizing within the game as well as being the game itself. So super cool.
And that's such a great point. That's kind of what turns it into like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So like if people actually are in the metaverse, if they spend time there, like right now, the biggest asset to any company is your time and attention. So if that's where people are, that's where the ad spend is going to be. That's where companies are going to be. Like if you have a very, very, prime location in the sandbox, like you're right next to Snoop Dogg, it gets a lot of foot traffic. Like, who knows, McDonald's tosses you X amount of an Ethereum to put up like a sign, whatever, to build the sign like that says McDonald's, like obviously it's a dumb example, but like it's, it's something that basically like companies can extend past all of the world, like real world economy, and almost like create a second economy to double dip into like people in the metaverse. Cause like I'm way more willing to, like, it's way easier for me to spend like ETH than to like just like drop some money on like a subscription or drop some money on like a grocery bill.
Like I forget how much
yeah. It doesn't even like hurt. Oh, half or whatever. Yeah.
Quarter of an ETH.
Okay. Yeah.
For now, until it's the global reserve currency.
Yeah,
oh no.
No, I'm kidding.
No digidollar, please.
Interesting.
So there's one interesting project that I saw. I know, Ev, you mentioned nodes, and we were talking about them last week. On the node side of things, there is a P2E game. Have you guys heard of Gala?
Oh,
yeah,
there's music NFTs coming out, right?
Yes, that also goes hand in hand with what Armada was saying. With the music stuff, I haven't looked deep into what they have. I just know that they have nodes, and those nodes help kind of like the infrastructure and ecosystem of the P2E gaming kind of environment that they have like function. So sorry, hold on.
I'm gonna grab a nooner.
drink break for Ev.
I thought you said you don't drink those in Chicago.
Dude, they partnered with Walking Dead too, which is like
oh, interesting.
Yeah. So these guys are like from what I've heard, at least, they're like what I've read, like these guys are pretty far along compared to some of these other projects. But Decentraland, Sandbox, these guys, there's like a few other players who are like pretty far along in the journey compared to others. So it's basically blockchain enabled games. It's pretty cool. You guys can check out the website. So it basically recycles it. The goal for them, what I've read, is that the goal is to recycle. You think about money that is spent, in gaming, regardless, right? Even if you're playing on your Xbox or something, like in-game purchases and stuff like that. The goal for them is to like recycle this back into the ecosystem for like the players and the token holders to like continuously keep that ecosystem churning, right? So you need the token to like play actual games and like make in-game purchases and like do all that stuff, but that money is then recycled back to the players. It's like kind of like a loop. That's what they're going for, at least, to keep it like sustainable. I know we've talked about tokenomics for these games in the past, where the big question is like, for some of these NFT projects, at least, like what is the utility of the token itself? And so that's what these guys are trying to do. And I'd imagine like probably NFT Worlds is probably going to try to do something similar, right? Like if the token itself provides value within the game for the players, and there are enough players, then all of a sudden you get this, like, you get the cycle that you want to see, right? And then these are the nodes too. So you have to get a node license in order to get one. I think like right now they're extremely expensive. I think like maybe like 80 or 90 grand for a Gala node, if I did that math right. Like, because it's like what, 20 cents, and it's like 438 grand.
Yeah.
in
their token.
90,000.
so it's like pretty expensive for a node.
Keys.
Yeah, I know, right?
And so this is kind of
But they've got like
because
25,000 nodes running.
it's like NFT Worlds, but it's just instead of being like a VR play almost, it's the same structure, but it's just like browser based.
I don't know much about the games. Let's see the games. So it
So
looks like there's a bunch of
it-
games. Yeah, Garcia, do you know about this?
well, I don't think it's a game engine, not a metaverse. At least if I'm understanding correctly. So like they'll build games and incorporate like crypto and NFTs, but it's not like a metaverse where like you're so like there's not like one big world you're gonna like maybe want to play one of these games individually over another game, where like Sandbox is gonna be one world and like you're running around and everyone has a specific location. But this is like gonna be, it's just independently with these games.
Right.
I also see like I can see the platform on here. For every game, they have a platform on what you can play on.
Yeah.
So that would make sense.
Yeah, that makes sense now.
But that would be crazy. This is a random thought. Like, how it's like if it's a game engine, theoretically, couldn't they they could theoretically partner with NFT Worlds if NFT Worlds wanted to like plug into their game engine.
Yeah, no, that's literally like the long like macro view of the NFT Worlds like code, and like the way it's built is like you can basically plug whatever game engine is and it becomes a metaverse. You build it on that metaverse L1, and that kind of becomes like the foundation for your game.
Interesting. Yeah, I just
That
wanted
is
to share
a cool
that one with you
concept,
guys.
because then I feel like you have in the same setting, right? You have like an ecosystem of those games, and I assume you're using Gala as like the token to purchase the in-game add-ons, I assume, right? In each of those games, doesn't matter what game it is, they're all using the same token. Is it kind of like that?
Yeah.
So as long as they have like users and as long as they build good games, in theory, the token should do well over time.
Well, and the interesting part is there's no finite amount of games that can be on that platform. You can continue to build compared to a lot of these metaverse plays that have a restricted number of plots.
Yeah, like if Sandbox flops, it'll just flop,
Right.
Like that, like if a Gala game flops, they just build it a better one or build a different one,
Right.
Yeah, more and more.
I think that circles back to kind of the point before, where it's like there's kind of a focus on investors right now, and with the finite amount of real estate, it's a very investor focused game. Whereas I feel like Gala is really interesting because although it's not super investor focused, back to Soham's point, it's kind of that game focus, right? We're going to have the best games and people are going to come here and use this because we have good games. So that's interesting.
Yeah. So it's almost like a totally different way to do tokenomics. And because of that, you're attracting a very different audience. You're saying, you're bringing people in for the user experience of the game, which when you look at anything that has succeeded in tech, it's always been based off a great user experience. So I would say that I don't know. I think it's something we should watch Gala in the future, because that's a much better strategy in my head than some of these other plays.
Yeah, I like
Interesting. Rain check for maybe next time or another one. I haven't done any research, but Garcia, you're right. They're coming out with some sort of music, something to do with music. All I know is that Gala music is a thing. I'm not sure what it is, but that will be happening. So
yeah, no, and it I mean it's definitely like a big deal. Like a lot of people are talking about it, and apparently they're gonna have like a listen to earn feature where like people have the NFTs up on the marketplace, and if you listen to it, they get a kickback. And they're gonna have like ways where you can like just like interesting ways where you can license the music too. So no one really knows, like they have like specific features like that they've like uncovered, but like they're still fleshing it out. So it's like it's technically live, but it's like a beta live, if that makes sense, at least from my understanding. But like fans can have like sharing rewards, like so if you're like in on like early with an artist or something like that, it's literally what we were talking about before about like way back in the day about investing. This could be a way that you invest in artists. If you're early, you mint their NFT, maybe one of their perks is like, hey, you get X percentage of my royalties or X percentage of my listening things. Thank you for minting my initial NFT or investing in me early.
No, seriously,
So,
this is awesome.
yeah,
Damn, if fucking Millennium did this, Armada would be like a billionaire.
yeah, exactly.
Yo, definitely throw this in the link. I'm super interested. This is great.
Definitely something we'll keep our eyes on. Definitely let us know, listeners, if you're interested in that, doing more of a deep dive into that. I would like to research it selfishly.
Yeah, I'd love to. That looks awesome. And I'd be interested to see what other platforms are doing that at the moment. It seems like Gala's kind of a mixed bag where they've got games and music. I'm sure there's other people doing just music that we can check out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not financial advice, of course, any of this, but it would be interesting to look into, like, because it's so gamer focused and not investor focused, like, would it really be an amazing investment? Like, what do their tokenomics look like? There's no like supply shock coming at any time, like that type of stuff, right? I feel like that's how NFTs and the real estate stuff and the metaverse, like that's how all that price is driven. So it would be interesting. And I don't know, Sam, can you pull up a chart of Gala? See what that looks like.
I think it's gotten totally fucked on.
Just
just like everything else.
So with a grain of salt, with a grain of salt.
Just like our whole lives.
No, it's funny. I
go.
mean, it's like, when you're in a bear market, you get a ton of bullish news and no one cares about it, right? But when you're in a bull market, you get some bearish news, no one cares about it, right? I think Ben Cohen said something like that. And I was like, yeah, you're so right. Like, there's always bearish and bullish news. It's just what the sentiment is at the time.
We're down.
What
down
people want to collect.
Down about 75%, it looks like.
Yeah,
so
that's part for the course for altcoins.
Yeah, higher low though.
Right.
Higher low than before there.
Yeah, for sure. It's hanging there. So
how long was that span there where it popped up and then came back down?
From like December, end of November to you're talking about here? Or?
Yeah. Because I mean, realistically, you look at like it's probably got 3 or 4 plateaus there where it's been pretty consistent.
Yeah, like I mean, it's really hard to say right now, but it looks like it has a pretty stable floor around here.
Mm-hmm.
In like the 0.18 and above range.
Because I guess when you like,
obviously if everything pukes, then like it'll go down a lot, but
right.
I don't know, Garcia, what are you seeing on the technical resistance side? Probably the biggest resistance, if it ends up breaking this, is going to be here, right? 0.9 or something.
And I was just going to say more so the issue I have with Gala, and one of the reasons why I didn't put anything into it earlier, was that it has a pretty large total supply. So like right now it's like 6.9 billion. I think in the end, like I think they have forgot how many years their plan is, but in the end there's going to be like almost 50 billion tokens. So it's like there's a heavy supply, and I almost always like finite, just to kind of shield yourself from like a complete just like dumpage. So I don't know, that always kind of sketches me out. Just as like even if I like it, just as like a general non-emotional rule of thumb, I try to stay away from these high total supplies.
Got to check all the boxes.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's tough because from the developer's point of view, having like not being completely constrained to a total supply cap gives you a little bit more flexibility if you want to like pivot and do stuff in the future. I know we were talking about Strong last week. That was one of the biggest issues with them, is like they burned like almost their entire total supply last year when they first started, because they thought it was a good thing to do, but it like severely limited them in what their current smart contract was able to like handle and do. And so that's why they're, coming up with this, new smart contract. So, but that their whole goal was to make it like a very small, like fixed supply, right? On the flip side, from an investor perspective, absolutely, you want to see the scarcity, right? Kind of a balancing act almost. I don't know what to call it, but
yeah.
And I think from a developer perspective, you could kind of see this as a win, because you're looking at this company that's running this blockchain that is completely centralized. You know, I figure they have all nodes of this, or majority. And because of that, you know, you have a strong partner to build with. They're going to continue to operate in your best interest. And because, you know, they've got this ridiculous supply, that I get the feeling it'd be difficult to manipulate. You know, they're creating trust with their developers. So that is, I would say, one plus with this.
Yeah, that's definitely the thing. It's like you said, so it's like it's almost like a double-edged sword, kind of a balancing act, because from a game studio perspective, you're not building the coin as like an investment like purpose. Like
Right.
I know everyone says that, but like this is like really not, like it's more meant to be like a utility token. So it's like from like that perspective, you don't want it to be doing, ideally in the end, you don't want it to be doing 90% swings on a daily basis, or like, you know, crazy volatility, buying and selling, buying and selling. You want more kind of like steady flows of buying and selling, like kind of where a Strong's ideal spot is like the same idea with the buying and selling, just like of an in-game utility token, like on the kind of more metaverse PDE side. But
yeah, and that makes so much sense for something like that, where there's going to be, and really at this point, an infinite number of games that people can put onto it, as far as we know, at least, right?
Right.
So, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to look at these tokens that these games have. I mean, one, they've got the actual currency like Gala that they're going to be running on top of. But it's interesting. I'd be interested to see if Gala gives out any governance tokens for future roadmap. Just because I know, you know, if you continue to have more and more apps join your ecosystem, you're going to want to have certain people, certain developers within it that can help you determine roadmap. I think that's like
Interesting.
One very interesting thing about these governance tokens is that there is almost like a material value to how much these developers are worth to your ecosystem, rather than just like how your relationships are. So that's something to watch with this too.
Definitely.
It's a really
I like
interesting
this.
point.
I think we
I
should
never
do a deep
ever
dive
thought
on
about
this.
that.
Yeah, we should definitely keep Gala on the radar.
Gala will be on our
Yeah, we'll
I mean,
also
the
figure out how
listeners
to
can let us
pronounce it.
know if they're interested,
Yeah.
but definitely
Gala,
down to
Gala.
keep covering them. Gala.
Yeah.
Gula.
Gulag.
Gala Games.
Oh man.
Sia, you got any updates on NFT Worlds or anything?
Yeah, so I mean, basically, like in the last week, kind of the major things that happened were staking was released. So like in the first couple of days, I think like 82-ish%, 84% of the worlds have been staked. So that's like part of the token distribution. They're on kind of a 5-year plan. So all of the staking is going to account for like 25% of the total token distribution. So that started. They're releasing like a new white paper this week on additional tokenomics. So like they're going to talk about like the in-game marketplaces and all that kind of stuff. And they're kind of, you know, it's highly anticipated to see kind of what their view of the tokenomics are, because I think they're kind of in the same boat where they're not really building it as an investment. They're more so building it as a utility token. So, but they also understand people want to come as retail investors and, you know, buy it up and be a part of the ecosystem without having to buy a world. So
Right.
It's definitely an interesting balance. And I mean, every week more you know, projects are building on world, more players are coming into the servers. I think there's like 13 playable games now, playable worlds, excuse me, and playable games. So
Nice.
I definitely need to get in there and try it myself, but I haven't yet.
Yeah. And so where do you have any like timeline, and like where do you see this kind of fitting in terms of like play to earn? Like, are people already using it right now to earn money, or is that
Yeah.
in the future?
No, so that's going on right now. So basically the first true kind of like heavy duty server that they launched is called Mothership. And it's basically this kind of like PvP combat first person shooter where you're, two alien teams kind of fighting against each other. And there was this video that they posted of the gameplay actually inside NFT Worlds, and I'm trying to find it. But basically, like, you're waiting in a lobby, like you get in, and if you win the match, your team all get like world rewards, and it deposits like in your MetaMask basically right away. So everyone's been saying that the like process has been pretty seamless. Like there've been thousands of players in and out of it. So I'm just kind of, oh, here it is. But I'm interested to see kind of, I need to turn down the volume. I'm interested to see like if it actually, gains traction into the future in terms of other games like gaining popularity and like what people are actually going to do in terms of like building out these games. But this is like the one that's basically like their first kind of beta server.
Is this on someone's world?
Yeah, so this is on one of NFT World's world, and they like had someone like build it out.
It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. And so it's like I think it's like I don't know how many it is, maybe 3v3, 4v4. And so if your team wins, in terms of how many kills you guys can get total, you'll all get a certain amount of world token after the game.
It's kind of giving me like 007.
Fucking... Dude, I was gonna say that.
64.
GoldenEye.
Yeah, 64.
N64 GoldenEye, bro.
The Golden Desert Eagle. You'll see it in there next. Don't you worry.
Yeah. That's exactly what it looks like.
Sweet. Okay, so
so like,
as a can you do multiple games on each of these plots of land, or is it like one plot of land, one developer group, and then they build X game on that? Is that how it works, or is it like multiple games can go into each of these lands? You see what I'm saying? Or
yeah, so what's unique about this is that it's, and I wish I had the actual graph up, but one of these worlds is like a crazy amount of times bigger than a single sandbox plot. So what some people are doing is they're building out like different games in different part of their worlds. So like you can build like a whole like expansive group of games. So like one NFT World's building out a soccer tournament game where like you just play, and it's like they're building up a bunch of stadiums and you just play like 11v11, and like if you win, you win worlds. So like there's like a bunch of like weird, like people are building racing games, but you can, like, to answer your question, you can build multiple games within a world. It's not confined to like one game per your whole world.
Right. I'm thinking of like, do you guys remember Pokemon Stadium?
Oh yeah.
Where, like, the intro is like you go in, you can play like the regular game in one area, and then another area was like the mini games, which we always used to play and drink a lot too, which was a great time. Maybe we'll have to do that again sometime. And then there's like battle area, like all that stuff. So that would be really cool to see that happen too, where it's like different areas of the plot of land are then used for different pieces of the game. So,
absolutely.
Anyways.
And then that kind of becomes, depending on what your project is or who your community is, like that becomes like an added bonus to have access to a world like that, or to have access to games, or you can just build it standalone. Like if you really want to build and you think that you can attract a bunch of users to your game, then that's another route. So there's like a lot of avenues to take it from that metaverse, but everyone's.
And so to play these games, like, is there a barrier to entry, or is this like you can hop in and play them and then win worlds?
You just have to have Minecraft. That's it.
Oh.
And so then the in-game world goes into a Minecraft wallet. To claim it, you have to have a MetaMask, or you have to have like some sort of crypto wallet, but you don't need a wallet to accrue it, if that makes sense. You just need a wallet to claim it. So like theoretically anyone could go in with Minecraft downloaded, win the cash, and like have it there and like keep winning it without even knowing how to set up a crypto wallet, which is kind of the idea.
Oh, interesting. Wait, so does that mean in the game, if you accrue it, you can still spend it? for
Yeah.
things.
So like they have
In-game purchases.
Yeah, so like they had a lot of they're doing like they have like commands like where you can like trade stuff to each other. So like they showed like a demo of people exchanging a plot of land.
I saw that
like-
demo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Where it doesn't
that was
like,
interesting.
I think it's gonna
Can
be
you
like
pull that up? Do you have that?
let's see if
This
I
is
have-
what reminded me of RuneScape. Like you have your like chat box and
Yeah.
it pops up in the chat box like so and so wants to like transact with you or something, and then you
Yeah,
like click
kinda-
on it and then you like
I
do
want to
it.
see how
Yeah.
those in-game purchases go down because I feel like there's.
Yeah.
Go
No,
ahead.
if I'm thinking of the right video, it like he was doing it through command line or like by typing or something, but he like in the description it says that you can do it just by clicking and stuff.
I don't know where exactly it is, but this is I had to share this
It's like
'cause
maybe a
this is
couple of
actually-
years old, or not
I
couple
didn't-
years,
I-
couple weeks.
a couple weeks old. I didn't realize this,
Yeah.
but this is a crazy amount, like almost 10,000 unique players in the last 48 hours from that March 3rd, whatever that is. Like Decentraland and Sandbox maybe have like a couple thousand, every couple days. Like this is crazy to have it be online, only for a few weeks and have it be that many players. And I think that was one of the maps that we were looking at, but let me go back. I gotta find that demo of where they're actually doing the in-game. I'm not sure if that might have been a long time ago and I can't quite remember.
It was definitely a couple weeks ago at least.
Oh, okay.
With these worlds, Sia, is it something where there's like a URL or
Oh, here it is.
a Minecraft like game code to be able to get into the NFT world, or is every single NFT world public?
So I think that's something that you can manage as the world owner, I'm pretty sure.
Gotcha.
So I'm pretty sure like you can set a if you want to set it like to only offer to a certain server, like with a join ID, I'm pretty sure you can do that. I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure that's how it's set up. But yeah, so like they're exchanging a plot of land here. It's just called a test plot. They're saying, okay, 250 world, you list it up directly to him, and then he can buy a plot. And so they're just exchanging it in game without any crypto or wallet usage or any hey, send your address kind of thing. It's just doing it right there in the world. So the idea is if people are playing popular games on these worlds, then obviously the world token and all that kind of stuff is going to be successful. But as with any game, you need players and users.
I think just the fact that you can accrue that and spend it without having to have a wallet or anything is crucial. That is, I think, huge, because that basically takes you can be a kid and you can still play it. It doesn't matter what the world token is going for in real life. You can come and you can play and you can earn the world token. And then if you want, you can spend it on in-game purchases and things that you want. And if you're really good at the game, you're going to get a bunch of world tokens. You can sell them for real money if you want, but you can also probably get really cool stuff in the game. Right?
Yeah.
If you think about it, I remember when I played RuneScape, there was an actual market for real money,
right,
for items.
Yeah.
You can sell you can go fish 10,000 lobster, and there was a market for it, right? Somebody was willing to pay you $10 or $20 for it, right? Because they didn't want to take the time to go do that themselves. So you can see how this could kind of evolve in that way. And the fact that you don't have to have I think what's really smart that they're doing, it seems is taking a lot of the crypto technical stuff out of it, right?
Yeah, their goal is to kind of make it as frictionless as possible. That's been that's kind of the thing that they've been questioned on the most as they've gone through this, because they just don't a lot of people are well, how are you going to make that happen? And so it's it's always something that they're talking about, and they're always watching the amount of players that are crypto native or not crypto native. So they're saying there's actually a majority right now Minecraft players, not people that heard about it on Twitter, crypto like wallet users. So whether that, continues, that's, yet to be seen. But it's smart kind of building off of a game that's already really, really popular, because that's the hardest part, is getting the audience for a game.
Right. Yeah, it'll be interesting as the game engines grow and continue to improve upon themselves. Like I believe Minecraft is open sourced, or it's a pretty low barrier of entry to build with. But it'll be interesting as they get even better and better game engines to work with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super cool. All right, boys. Well, I think this was a super cool episode. I definitely learned a ton. I think we'll wrap it up with P2E Gaming. What are your guys' top picks? If you had to choose right now, where are we going? Obviously, not financial advice, as everyone knows, but it's always fun. On what is it, March 14th, 2022. What are we who's moving and where are we moving?
We're coming back to this in 3 months, boys. So
Oh,
I'm just kidding. I'm just
Yeah.
We all know Garcia. I mean, he already just gave the best rundown of NFT Worlds that I've heard. So
Yeah,
we know
showing
he's
his
going
bag for
there.
sure.
Evan, what do you got?
I mean, I would have to go with the Gala Games. I think that's gotten really interesting ecosystem for developers, and I think VR definitely has a strong future. But when you look at how games are played at the moment, within the next couple of years, it's still going to be browser based for the most part, either browser based or within an Xbox, within a PlayStation. And so you look at some of the popularity that Steam has and other online gaming platforms like that. I would say we should watch Gala Games in the next 6 months, a year, 2 years, and kind of see what ecosystem they're able to build there.
It's a good pick.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
I like that one a lot, and definitely I just scratched the surface on it. So, if you are interested in it, definitely comment down below. But we'll be keeping the listeners posted on that one, just because it's super interesting. Armada, where are you headed?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done too much research in the space. I loved NFT Worlds. I like where they're taking it. Gala's got me really interested for long term. I like NFT Worlds here for what all of this space is now. I love where Gala's taking this, though. I think they have upside in the short term, like Evan was saying, all the browser basis, but also with all this innovation, right? Bringing in the music piece of the NFTs, I love the direction they're taking a lot of this. So I'll be doing a deep dive into Gala after this. So that'll be my top pick.
We'll definitely need a portion on the music going forward. I feel like Mata, you're the right man for the job.
I'd be honored.
Yeah, no, I for me, I like both of those a lot. I think NFT Worlds is the world token has gone down to a point where I'm really starting to look at it now, because it really had a huge run that I missed on, but now it's down in kind of an interesting range. So gonna be keeping my eye on that. Hopefully can do some sort of dollar cost averaging into that one in the coming weeks for sure. I think a lot of what they're doing is it's smart for sure. And they just kind of have a very interesting way that they're going about it strategically.
That'd be another interesting
thing,
point.
I think.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say what last thing on my side. I think as somebody who is admittedly very new to this space in terms of P2E gaming, usually I do most of my dirty work in DeFi until I get rugged. But this is something.
And then you take a little breather and you're back in.
Yeah. Take a little take a step back, evaluate my life a little bit. This one, so this is actually an index fund, almost like an ETF that tracks. If you don't necessarily want to pick your horse right now, and you just are bullish on the entire sector, I thought this was a really interesting thing that I also might, try to dollar cost average into right now, take a small position, because it gives you exposure to, you know, a lot of the big names in this space. Whether it's like Axie, Sandbox, Decentraland, a bunch of these other ones that are like a little lower cap, but could make runs. And like, obviously I haven't done much research on this, but just the idea of being exposed to the entire industry, particularly going all the way back to what Evan was talking about in terms of like the total addressable market and like how that's going to progress over the next few years, I think could be also, you know, a pretty interesting play. So yeah, with that, Mata, do you have something to add?
No, I think we'll go into it next week because it'll be another prompting question that'll just end up in us talking for 20 minutes. So let's give the listeners back some of their day.
Absolutely. Well, to all the listeners, thank you so much for coming to episode 2 or joining us for episode 2. We will be back next week, same time, same place. Super excited about it. If you guys have any ideas for videos, please drop them in the comments down below. We're always looking for new ideas. And if you found this useful, definitely like, comment, subscribe, you know, the whole YouTube thing. But yeah, till next time, signing off, Wagme.
Wag me. The echo. Later, guys.